On Tuesday night, we learned about the NBA's 113-page health and safety manual sent to everyone who will be entering the Orlando bubble. I'm Sierra Goodwill, here with Mike Petraglia and Josue Pavon. Guys, this covered pretty much everything that the league is doing to try to keep their players and staff safe and COVID-free, from players on the second row of the bench and coaching staff having to wear masks at all times, to completely complying with social distancing guidelines anytime they're off the court. There was a lot going on. What stood out to you? Because to me, it was the proximity alarms that they could wear, where it buzzes anytime they're within 6 feet of someone for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah, that one certainly stood out the most. One of them, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because realistically, I don't see players following this. I mean, maybe it's a small group of them that do, but after things get a little way too more comfortable, I should say, so to speak, and people say, after a week in, I don't see this realistically being the guidelines that every single player in Orlando is going to stick to. I just don't see that happening. And whether the penalties are going to actually happen or how the NBA is going to be able to manage all this, is going to be really, really difficult.
Well, after reading the document and 113 pages, you can now understand why some of the players have concerns about returning within those kind of restrictions. Obviously, the players want to be safe, but I think a group of the NBA players, led by Kyrie Irving and others, are like, the restrictions that you're going to put in place for us, for our safety, are not going to be realistic. Well, if they're not going to be realistic, and we're not going to enjoy coming back and playing these games, and I understand they're getting paid, but to actually abide by all of the litigation and all of the guidelines that are laid out in that document is unrealistic. And I think Josue's right on the money. There's no way that they're going to be able to realistically abide by every single guideline. And I think the NBA is going to have to pick and choose which guidelines they want to enforce more strictly than others.
Yeah, a couple more notes from the manual overall. The players and staff, everyone going down to Orlando, will have to put in writing that they have abided by the Orlando rules and the league rules once they're down there on campus. So it is in writing, and if they end up violating those terms, they can be issued a warning, a fine, a suspension, or removal from the campus altogether. So ultimately, I guess the league is trying to hold them accountable for all of these strict rules, and an anonymous hotline is being put in place for people to call in case they want to rat somebody out for not following.
That's snitching lines.
That will really, really promote goodwill and good gestures between teams and between players, won't they? It's not like NBA players aren't already petty, right? I mean, that just sounds ridiculous to me. And look, guys, I am all for sports returning, but if it's going to be litigated like this and this litigious, I don't think it's realistic. And I think when you take a look at soccer and you take at MLS and you take a look at the NHL, it doesn't sound like to me their players are being put through the ringer. I think the NHL is trying to kind of feel their way through returning under COVID measures and COVID precautions. The NBA seems like they're putting the cart before the horse a little bit with this document, not really giving a full breath to these players and coaches and staff what they're going to have to go through, the sacrifices they're going to have to make to make sure that they abide by a 113-page document. Again, it just doesn't seem realistic to me. It seems well-intentioned, and certainly they want to get the message out here that they have the player and coaches and staff safety at priority number one. But again, executing it is another matter altogether.
And Josue, is this all for nothing if once they get on the court, they're in each other's faces, sweating on each other, breathing on each other? So what's the contrast here?
This is the NBA protecting themselves here. This is the NBA saying, look, Rudy Gobert, Mitchell, people don't forget. People will never forget. 20 years from now, people will say, oh, yeah, Rudy Gobert shut down the country or the world, so to speak, relatively speaking, at least for us, us media members, everything changed, right? So I think that's what the NBA is doing. They're just trying to protect themselves and make sure that there isn't going to be another case, God forbid, of course, and also another lawsuit, After what happened, honestly, I was really put it this way: a month ago or 2 months ago, someone told me the NBA is going to come back. I was thinking, okay, but that's probably going to be way down the road, and we're probably not going to see the beginning of the traditional next season. But here we are, you know. So I think that's just what the NBA is trying to do right now. They're trying to protect themselves. And to Trags' point, it's going to be interesting because I think players, they all, whether we're talking superstition or not, they'll have a certain routine, a certain way to go about their approach to a basketball game. All of that changes, and of course, that's going to be the case for everyone. But which players are able to perform at a high level without that normal routine, that's ultimately going to speak volumes for who's the champion of this tournament. But yeah, let's see what the NBA is going to. Let's see the next chapter. This is like a story that just continues to go on and on until we actually see the league come back.
And we'll continue to cover it all the way through on our website at clnsmedia.com and on our YouTube channel at Celtics All Access.